A person steps across the threshold of an unremarkable wooden door and is no longer in the room they entered. What waits on the other side is documented as an alternate reality, one severe enough that assigned personnel must be unmarried, childless, and screened for obedience before approach. The nature of Procedure 220 Calabasas is addressed later in this file. The terminal issued its warning as the operator entered credentials a second time, 60 seconds ticking against the possibility of armed retrieval. If you wish to continue, please re-enter your user authentication now. The system logged the attempt, rejected it, and demanded correction. Warning: incorrect authentication. You have 60 seconds to enter the correct user authentication, or security personnel will be summoned to your location. A second attempt failed. A third was accepted. The system then prompted for a project-specific personal identification number, received it, and requested a retinal scan. Incorrect orientation, it stated. Please align the pupils of your eyes with the guidelines indicated on the secondary screen and try again. Compliance was recorded. The time and date of your access to this file has been logged and reported to the Records and Information Security Administration, known internally as RISA. The accessing user was identified as Dr. Kane P. Crow, Senior Supervising Researcher, cleared to view the file at Level 4. The record displayed pertains to the anomaly designated SCP-2317. The subject of the file is a wooden door and its accompanying frame. Its construction is unremarkable in provenance. It was originally built to serve as a basement door for a 19th century brownstone in the state of Massachusetts. Nothing in the timber, hardware, or joinery differs materially from other domestic carpentry of that period. The anomaly is not intrinsic to the material, but to the threshold itself. The recorded effect is direct. Upon opening the door, any person stepping through the door frame will be transported to an alternate reality. The Foundation description offers, at this stage of the file, no further elaboration on the nature of the destination, the mechanism of transit, or the reversibility of the passage. What lies beyond the frame is, for the reader cleared to this level, defined only by that single sentence. The door opens. A person steps through. The person is elsewhere. The file continues, and the reader continues with it, aware that the plainness of the object is not, in itself, reassuring. A second authentication follows the first. A new user provides credentials and requests the same file at a higher clearance. The terminal warns that access is restricted to those with Level 1 clearance and only on a need-to-know basis, and prompts for re-authentication. The credentials are entered again. The system identifies the user as an Assistant Security Specialist at Site 179 and displays the file at Clearance Level 1. At this level, the object class is no longer expunged. It is recorded as Keter. The containment procedures expand. The initial paragraph remains unchanged. SCP-2317 is to be secured at Containment Area 179 in a reinforced 3 meter by 3 meter by 3 meter containment chamber, with armed guards in place at all times to prevent unauthorized access to the facility. What follows this paragraph at Level 1 concerns the personnel themselves. All personnel assigned to SCP-2317 must rotate out for 1 month of psychological counseling after 2 months on site. Personnel assigned to SCP-2317 must undergo heavy psychological testing before being cleared to enter the site. Individuals must score at least 72 points on the Milgram Obedience Examination, be unmarried, have no offspring, and express nothing less than total loyalty to the Foundation. The criteria are noted without commentary. Obedience under authority. No spouse. No children. Loyalty measured and confirmed before assignment. The procedures continue. While on site, individuals assigned to SCP-2317 will be issued concealing helmets with integrated voice changers to protect their identity. On-site staff are not to remove said uniforms in the presence of other staff members. Off-duty hours are to be spent in private quarters alone. The reader is left with an image. A facility staffed by anonymous figures who cannot show their faces to one another, cannot be recognized by voice, and cannot congregate outside their duties. A door, contained in a reinforced chamber, guarded around the clock, and tended by personnel whose selection prioritizes obedience and isolation. The plainness of the earlier description has been overwritten. What began as a wooden door has acquired, at this clearance, the outline of a much larger silence. The terminal continues past the warnings. Further information on the subject is classified at Level 3 Secret or higher. Insufficient security clearance. A prompt returns. Welcome to SCP-NET Direct Access Terminal. Please enter command. The command entered is login. The system requests user authentication. The credentials are supplied, an address ending in foundation.scp, and a passphrase spelled through the phonetic alphabet. Authentication accepted. Please enter command. The instruction given is to access file 2317 at Level 3. The terminal issues a further caution. The user is attempting to open a security Level 3 file. Access is restricted to personnel with Level 3 clearance who are in direct contact with the anomaly. Continuing without proper authorization will result in disciplinary action, up to and including administration of a broad-spectrum Class A amnestic, followed by termination of employment. Information regarding the access, including date, time, and location, will be reported to the Records and Information Security Administration. To continue, the user must re-enter authentication. The credentials are supplied again. Authentication accepted. A project-specific personal identification number is requested and provided. The system acknowledges receipt and confirms that the time and date of access have been logged and reported. The record identifies the user as Dr. Victoria Fellini, senior researcher for the file in question. The document displays item number 2317. Object class, Keter. Special containment procedures follow. The object is to be secured at Containment Area 179 in a reinforced chamber of 3 meters by 3 meters by 3 meters. Armed guards are to be in place at all times to prevent unauthorized access to the facility. All personnel assigned to the object must rotate out for 1 month of psychological counseling after 2 months on site. Personnel must undergo heavy psychological testing before being cleared. Individuals must score at least 72 points on the Milgram Obedience Examination, be unmarried, have no offspring, and express nothing less than total loyalty to the Foundation. While on site, they will be issued concealing helmets with integrated voice changers. Uniforms are not to be removed in the presence of other staff. Off-duty hours are to be spent in private quarters, alone. Analysis of supplementary texts recovered at the time of containment identified Procedure 220 Calabasas as an effective means of maintaining containment until a method for repairing or reattaching the chains can be discovered. Containment procedures were amended accordingly. As records indicate that the sequence of redacted events demonstrates an exponential increase in lethality, it is extrapolated that failure of the final chain, designated SCP-2317G, would result in an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario. For this reason, every possible effort is to be made to ensure a successful Procedure 220 Calabasas. Further information on SCP-2317 is restricted to the Overseer Council. Beyond this threshold, the record is accessible only via authenticated terminal session at the level of the Overseer Council. Under the Special Access Designation Code Nightmare Regent Red, the special containment procedures for SCP-2317 are listed, in full, as irrelevant. SCP-2317 is described as a primeval entity, its true name intentionally redacted and referenced only by title as the Devourer of Worlds. The Arakesh Codex records that it was captured and imprisoned by Arakeshan mystics in the 2nd millennium before the Common Era. According to the relevant passage, an army was led into a realm beyond the clouds, where 7 cunning chains were crafted from the bones of a bride of the Devourer, and the entity was bound within a pearl beneath a mirror of salt in a realm under the sea. The gates to that far country were ordered sealed forever. It is not clear how a 19th century occult society came to reopen those gates, nor why. What is documented is that the damage to the first 4 chains was accidental, and that the society in question bankrupted itself repeatedly in failed attempts at repair before the item passed into Foundation custody. Projections indicate that final containment failure will occur within the next century, with a mean time to failure calculated at approximately 30 years. All efforts to repair or replace the chains have failed. All efforts to rediscover the original method have proven fruitless. Assignment protocols require that 1 Class D personnel, drawn exclusively from the pool of convicted murderers, be allocated to SCP-2317 on a monthly basis for the express purpose of executing Procedure 220 Calabasas. Throughout the duration of the procedure, no fewer than 1 staff member holding Security Clearance 3/2317 must maintain uninterrupted camera surveillance. Upon conclusion of the procedure, all participating Class D personnel are required to return to their assigned holding cells. Failure to comply results in the remote detonation of their explosive collars. SCP-2317 itself is documented as a wooden door and accompanying frame, originally fabricated in the 19th century to serve as the basement door of a Massachusetts brownstone. The anomaly manifests upon the opening of the door. Any individual passing through the frame is transported to an alternate reality. Further description is not available at the current access tier. At this point in the record, the terminal reports that additional information regarding SCP-2317 is classified at Security Level 2, designated Restricted or higher, and that the accessing operator possesses insufficient security clearance. The interface returns to the SkipNet Direct Access terminal and requests a command. A login is entered. The system prompts for user authentication. Credentials are submitted. Authentication is accepted, and the operator issues the command to access file 2317 at Level 2. The terminal responds with a standard advisory, noting that the requested file is restricted to personnel holding Level 2 security clearance and further limited to those with a demonstrated need to know arising from direct contact with SCP-2317. The operator is informed that the date, time, and location of access will be reported to the Records and Information Security Administration. Re-authentication is required to proceed. The first attempt is rejected on the basis of incorrect authentication. A second attempt succeeds. The access event is formally logged and forwarded to Records and Information Security Administration. The file that follows identifies the item as SCP-2317, Object Class Keter. Under Special Containment Procedures at this clearance tier, SCP-2317 is to be secured at Containment Area 179 within a reinforced containment chamber measuring 3 meters on each side. Armed guards are stationed at all times to prevent unauthorized access to the facility. Personnel assigned to SCP-2317 are subject to strict rotation. Following 2 months of on-site duty, staff must rotate out for 1 month of psychological counseling. Prior to any initial assignment, candidates undergo heavy psychological testing. Cleared individuals must score no less than 72 points on the Milgram Obedience Examination, must be unmarried, must have no offspring, and must express nothing less than total loyalty to the Foundation. While on site, All assigned individuals are issued concealing helmets fitted with integrated voice changers, intended to protect the identity of each staff member. On-site personnel are not to remove said uniforms in the presence of other staff. Off-duty hours are to be spent alone within private quarters. One Class D subject, drawn from those with a background as a convicted murderer, is to be assigned to SCP-2317 each month for the purposes of carrying out Procedure 220 Calabasas. During the procedure, at least one staff member holding security clearance 3/2317 must monitor the process at all times. Following completion, all Class D personnel are required to return to their holding cells. Failure to comply will result in the detonation of explosive collars. SCP-2317 itself is a wooden door and frame, originally constructed as a basement door for a 19th century Massachusetts brownstone. Upon the door being opened, any person stepping through the frame is transported to an alternate reality. Exploration of this reality, designated SCP-2317 Prime, remains limited. The area directly accessible through the door is a salt pan several kilometers in radius. Positioned approximately 10 meters directly in front of SCP-2317 is a circle of 7 pillars, designated SCP-2317-A through SCP-2317-G, arranged in a 10-meter diameter formation. Each pillar measures approximately 1 meter in diameter and 7 meters in height. The pillars are constructed of marble and engraved with a series of intricate bas-reliefs. The art style of these engravings does not correspond to that of any known modern, historic, or prehistoric civilization. Addendum 1. Documents. Procedure 220 Calabasas, a ritual to be performed at solar noon each day. Solar noon is defined, for the purposes of this procedure, as the moment when the sun reaches its height over SCP-2317. Performance of the procedure requires the following personnel and materials to be assembled without deviation. 2 armed Foundation security personnel holding security clearance of level 3 or higher are required and are hereafter referred to as guards. 1 Foundation staff member with security clearance of level 4 is required and is hereafter referred to as the celebrant. 1 further individual, designated as specified under the special containment procedures, is required and is hereafter referred to as the assistant. A further element of the procedure has been marked Data Expunged and does not appear in this file. Material requirements include 1 knife with an edge of obsidian, hereafter referred to as the blade. Additionally, 1 silver aspergillum, together with its accompanying aspersorium, is required, filled with a quantity of no less than 500 cubic centimeters of holy water, said water having been blessed by a priest of an Abrahamic faith. Attention is directed back to the revised standing paragraph governing the assistant. Each month, 1 staff member holding security clearance 4/2317 is to be assigned the designation of Class D personnel for the purpose of acting as assistant to the primary celebrant. Personnel not holding security clearance of level 3 or higher are to be informed that the assistant has been drawn, in the usual manner, from the standing pool of Class D candidates. All persons directly involved in the performance of Procedure 220 Calabasas are, by contrast, to be informed of the true nature of the assignment. No personnel shall be authorized to assist in the performance of Procedure 220 Calabasas without first receiving a clear briefing that the assistant is not, in fact, a Class D personnel, and that the assistant is not to be terminated in the event that they disobey direct orders issued by the guards during the course of the ritual. With preparations complete and personnel briefed, the ritual proper commences. The celebrant, the guards, and the assistant open SCP-2317 and step through in sequence, entering the space designated SCP-2317 Prime. The assistant enters first, followed by the guards, followed by the celebrant. Guards are to maintain unbroken situational awareness of the assistant at all times. and are to be prepared to prevent escape through the application of deadly force. Beginning with the pillar closest to and in direct line with SCP-2317, designated SCP-2317-A, the celebrant begins a slow circumambulation of the pillars, SCP-2317-A through SCP-2317-G, proceeding in a counterclockwise direction at an even and measured pace. At every other step, the celebrant scatters holy water using the aspergillum and aspersorium, directing the aspersion toward the center of the circle. Upon completion of a single circumambulation of the pillars, the celebrant scatters holy water over the head of the assistant and recites the prescribed phrase. The exact wording of this invocation has been expunged from all accessible copies of the procedure, retained only within sealed liturgical materials issued to the celebrant on the day of the rite. Subsequent actions between this invocation and the assistant's response have been redacted from the procedural file under the notation of expunged data. When the record resumes, the assistant is engaged in their own circumambulation of the pillars SCP-2317-A through SCP-2317-G, proceeding in a clockwise direction and scattering a prepared mixture of blood and holy water toward the center of the circle. Upon completing this circumambulation, the assistant walks to the center of the ring of stones and pours the remaining mixture onto the discolored patch of salt and sand at its center, while reciting a second prescribed phrase, likewise expunged from the accessible file. All materials are then gathered. The obsidian knife is secured. All personnel return through SCP-2317, which is subsequently closed behind them. Attention now turns to the geography beyond the threshold. Exploration of the alternate reality, designated SCP-2317 Prime, remains limited in scope. The area directly accessible through SCP-2317 is a salt pan extending several kilometers in radius. Positioned approximately 10 meters directly in front of the doorway stands a circle of 7 pillars, designated SCP-2317-A through SCP-2317-G, arranged in a 10-meter diameter formation. Each pillar measures approximately 1 meter in diameter and 7 meters in height. Each is constructed of marble and engraved with a series of intricate bas-reliefs. The artistic style of the engravings does not correspond to that of any known modern, historic, or prehistoric civilization on record. The pillars extend 200 meters below the surface of the sand, terminating within a further designated space, SCP-2317-H. SCP-2317-H is a spherical cavity 100 kilometers in diameter, located directly underneath the pillar formation. Its interior is lined with the same stone used in the construction of the pillars themselves. Contained within this sphere is SCP-2317-K, hereafter referred to only as the entity. The following information has been inferred through seismic analysis, ground-penetrating radar, and direct observation. The entity appears to be an obese, human-like creature of immense proportions. Its estimated height, if fully erect, is in excess of 200 kilometers. Horns resembling tree branches sprout from its head, which lacks a lower jaw. The entire body is covered in millions of overlapping plate-like scales. 7 heavy hooks are embedded in the entity's back. Each hook is attached to a heavy steel chain, and each chain is connected to the lower end of one of the 7 pillars embedded in the ceiling of the chamber. At the time of the writing of this document, 6 of the pillars or their associated chains have been broken or damaged. Only 1 chain remains intact. The condition of this final chain and the load presently borne by it is the sole subject of ongoing seismic monitoring by containment personnel assigned to the site. The procedure itself proceeds as follows. The celebrant, the guards, and the assistant open the door and step through into the space beyond. The assistant enters first, followed by the guards, followed by the celebrant. The guards are required at all times to maintain situational awareness of the assistant and are to be prepared to prevent escape with deadly force. Beginning with the pillar closest to and in line with the door, the celebrant circumambulates the 7 pillars counterclockwise at an even and measured pace. At every other step, the celebrant scatters holy water by means of the aspergillum and aspersorium in the direction of the circle's center. Upon completing 1 full circumambulation, the celebrant scatters holy water over the head of the assistant and recites the following phrase: 7 seals, 7 rings, 7 thrones for the Scarlet King. The celebrant then withdraws to a safe distance. The assistant takes the obsidian knife and uses it to kill the chicken provided as sacrifice. Blood is drained from the chicken and added to the aspersorium, then stirred to mix with the holy water already contained within. The assistant then circumambulates the 7 pillars in a clockwise direction, scattering the mixture in the direction of the circle's center. Upon completing this circuit, the assistant walks to the center of the circle of stones and pours the remaining mixture onto the discolored patch of salt and sand at its center, while reciting the following phrase: "Blood for the old gods, water for the new king." All materials are gathered. The obsidian knife is secured. All personnel return through the door, which is subsequently closed. Failure at any point in the procedure may result in an end-of-the-world scenario. Should any mishap occur, personnel are to return immediately through the door. The chamber is to be locked down, and further instruction is to be sought from higher authority. Instructions may, at their discretion, include measures of a terminal nature applied to the site itself.